everyone. I am back with chapter 8 of System Synthesis entitled It's All About Growth. Itsuki stared at the hero in front of him, unsure of what to think. Sure, their first interaction wasn't the best, and it had been rough. Things had only gone downhill from that moment onward, and compared to what happened later on, being told to be realistic had probably been the least of his worries. It stung and hurt. It was from his favorite hero after all. But the same hero right now, in front of him, seemed generally apologetic. Even more perhaps because of his shorter form. I apologize for my callousness, my boy. All my sad, sounding generally apologetic. Blue eyes gloomy and upset. I shouldn't have said what I did. Neither should I have forgotten you. And even though it might seem like an excuse, my condition has gotten worse over the last year, so Itsuku frowned, his feelings aside, which honestly he had long gotten over. He was concerned about the hero. He remembered the scar clearly as the first time he had seen it. Did the time limit decrease? I might look surprised at first, but then nodded. Yes, I can only use it for 3 hours now. That was worrying. He was a simple piece and needed everywhere. 3 hours would end up being far too less at some point. And if he got heavily injured, would the time limit decrease even further? If you allow me to, I would like to mentor you as my successor, young Midoriya. All Might said, I believe honestly that you would become a great hero in the future. That's only because I have a quirk now, right? Ichigo asked, his voice quivering. He didn't hate the reply, given he had heard far worse from others. In fact, compared to the rest, All Might had let him down gently. But still, being told no sucks. No, All Might answered, shaking his head slightly. Back then, I did say it wasn't realistic, but I realized how wrong I was. I had answered from my own experience how helpless a quirkless person can be in the face of danger. But not all quirks are offensive, and I know a lot of great heroes who were able to face any danger despite the lack of an offensive quirk. He looked at him with a small smile, and I believe you've already met one of the greatest heroes I've known. Ichigo blinked. Nana Shimura? All Might smiled and nodded. Yes, she was my mentor. Miss Wonder, the number one hero before me. Her quirk was float, and people would often tell her how she wouldn't become a top hero with a quirk like that. But she proved them all wrong. So you think I could have become a hero despite not having a quirk? Ichigo asked. All Might nodded. That very day when I saw you fight the sludge villain, while the rest of us did nothing, I realized how wrong I was. Quirks isn't what makes a hero. It's our courage to stand up against the wrong that makes us one. He paused and looked away sheepishly, and someone did give me a ringing reminder of that recently. Itsuki furrowed his brow. Shota, what did you do? I've been looking for you since then, my boy. The very day I decided to make you my successor. At the mall, I didn't recognize you right away, but you did look familiar, and I wanted to talk to you just to make sure you were the right person before I passed my quirk. But, well, as long as one is approved by the current user, the quirk can be passed easily, All Might added in the end. The only thing that is left is for you to accept me. He took a deep breath and considered the offer. All Might words stung, but it wasn't like he wasn't the only person that Asuku cared a lot about that believed he couldn't be a hero. His own mother had apologized to him, even though he didn't need an apology. He just wanted to hear a simple yes. His best friend had turned away from him when his quirk status came out, but in the end, it was the same people that encouraged him for all these years, and Asuku had never hesitated to give a second chance when deserved. All Might was generally apologizing, offering him mentorship, and besides, All Might was the hero, the number one. Okay, Itsuki nodded. Judging someone based on their past was not something he did. It's the present that matters, because people deserve a second chance, and he was okay with giving that second chance this time. So he smiled and nodded once again. I'd like to be mentored by you, All Might. All Might smiled, and I'll be honored to mentor you. He gets a cookie point for the apology. It was a good one, Shigaraki said, nodding solemnly. Well, don't you change your opinions fast. Banjo raised an eyebrow. Shigaraki stared at him blankly. Have you forgotten who my brother is? Oh, yeah. Jeez. Itsuki snorted at the expression Banjo made while shaking his head and clicking his tongue critically. All Might looked at him curiously before looking over his shoulder to see where he was staring. Oh, sorry, it was them. Itsuki mumbled sheepishly, scratching his cheek. The previous one for all users. Oh, All Might's expression changed to something hopeful. I meant to ask about it. You can see my mentor, can you not? Itsuki nodded, glancing over at Nana. Yeah? Can you tell me how she is? All Might asked, albeit a little hesitantly. Itsuki looked at Nana, who smiled gently. Tell him that it wasn't his fault, and I never blamed him for anything. I've been proud of him since the beginning, and I'll always be proud of him. A pause, and then she added with a frown. Except for that day on the roof. She said she's proud of you and that it wasn't your fault, Isuku relayed. You've become a great hero, Toshi, and I'm so glad. But always remember your roots. Remember from where you started in order to reach where you are. Nana added, which Isuku once again dutifully replied. All Might listen to him silently, without interrupting once or showing any emotion on his face. Don't blame yourself, kid. You were amazing that day, and I'll never regret any decision I made that day. And take it easy now. I know you want to help people, but if you can't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of others. That's all, Izuku ended. All Might took in a shuddering breath and nodded. And then he smiled, not the usual smile he held on TV, but a soft, emotional kind, with tears brimming his eyes. Thank you, young Midoriya, All Might said, his voice wobbling. You've given me such a precious gift, I don't know how to thank you. I know a way. Izuku grinned, hopping off the bed. All Might looked at him with slightly furrowed brows. You can start training me tomorrow. All Might grinned, and this time it was one he had seen on TV. Of course, that's the spirit, my boy. Oh my god, he's like Banjo. Shimori mumbled, eyes going wide slightly. Training with All Might started at the Golda beach, cleaning it of the trash, to be exact. Itsuku didn't really mind after the initial confusion, and maybe it was because he was the number one hero. All Might knew just how to make it cleaning a beach sound like he was doing something worthy of a prize. Itsuki felt a bubbling energy inside of him after All Might's speech of encouragement. Wow, even I feel motivated, and I didn't even have to read a manga for that, Shigaraki had mumbled from the side. Training with All Might was interesting and downright hilarious at some points, and the other vestiges' constant commentary didn't help either. Banjo would encourage him to suck it up and just do it, while he struggled to push a broken refrigerator upon which All Might sat. Nana's cheering helped. It was nice, with her grinning and waving her hand around, pretending to be a cheerleader. When Itsuku mentioned it to All Might, he only smiled and told him, she used to do that with me too. Shigaraki was pointing out faults every second. Itsuku had thanked N when the sixth user dragged the first away. All Might apparently already had a schedule made for them, but If Isuku followed that, he would have to take trips around the world, running away from imminent death every single day. So no, not happening. All Might had looked so terrified when Isuku informed him of the restrictions, but before quickly making changes to it, his strength and EP were taking a quick spike because of it. However, agility and speed were increasing at the same level. Plus, if he started training at the beach at 5, then he wouldn't have time to focus on improving fire breathing. Yagi-san, Ichigo called while laying on the sand of the beach, arms numb and aching. Can we change the timing a bit? All Might stopped from where he had been loading the trash onto his truck and looked at him confused. Not quite, but why? Why? Is there a problem? How does one explain fire breathing when he barely understood it himself? I have another thing to do in the morning, so it'll be easier for me to train from 5:30. All Might said. Then we'll have to increase your training time in the evening. I'd prefer if you can build up your body as soon as possible and safely, given that there's still 1 year left before you join high school. He paused. Speaking of which, where are you going to attend? Ichigo grinned, his eyes sparkling with mischief. He hadn't told his mom or Shota of his choice yet. He had no idea how he managed to keep it hidden from them, or from Hisashi and Nomori, but so far none of them seemed to have any idea. Don't tell Shota, but I've applied for UA. All My eyes glimmered. That's amazing. I'm sure you'll get in without any problem. In fact, he looked around to make sure no one else was present before crouching next to him and whispering, "Do not tell anyone yet, but there is a chance I'm going to be a teacher at UA from next year." Say what? Yurichi snapped his head up from where he was reading a discarded comic book. Really? Isuku asked with wide eyes. All Might grinned. Yes. Holy shit. Now let's not use such language. Oh, please. Nana rolled her eyes. But you curse all the time in English, though. Isuku mumbled with furrowed brows. All Might flushed and coughed awkwardly. But still, you shouldn't. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. He reached out to turn the page from the discarded comic book before Shigaraki could complain to him. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Ichigo hadn't realized N was reading it too. All Might blinked and looked at the comic book before looking at him. Then he pointed towards it and asked, "Are you reading that?" Nope, but first and sixth are. All Might looked thoroughly baffled. Ichigo was sitting on the couch in Shota's apartment, eyes closed and situational awareness active, along with oral sense. The idea of it came to his mind in the middle of the night. He had woken up with a start and jumped off his bed to scribble the idea in his notebook. Situational awareness kept him updated with everything that happened around him all the time. He could spot everything that was present in his range of view. And as it turned out, humans actually see a lot more than what one usually does. As it turned out, humans only focused on a 60-degree range of view, and the rest of the visual information is discarded. But in reality, humans have a wide range of 200 to 220 degrees horizontal range of use, both eyes combined. Well, beyond 120 degrees fell into what is called the blind side of either eye. The problem was overcome with situational awareness. If it was present in the 200 to 220 degree horizontal range and 130-degree vertical range, Isuku could see it. Then there was oil sense. With its help, Isuku could pinpoint the location of his enemy with just sound. Like right now, despite having his eyes closed, he knew Shota was inside of his office, most likely looking for the papers he needed to grade. And finally, there was selective focus. Ichigo didn't know when it worked, he just knew he would have the information he needed, despite not knowing that he had the information in the first place. And from there came the idea. If he could combine oil sense and selective focus, then he should, theoretically speaking, be able to hear someone's movements and track them based on it without having to see them. And situational awareness combined with selective focus and oil sense could help him react to unseen attacks, and a pinging sound distracted him, making him open his eyes. Familiar blue screen floated in front of his eyes. Congratulations, you have earned a new skill. What? Isuku was sure he hadn't done anything that could earn him a new skill, given that he was grounded for a month, except for the absolutely necessary and compulsory training time. Or was it because his conversation with the system from the very first time rolled in his mind? You were required to have a certain amount of understanding and comprehension before you could activate your quirk. Right. He did need to understand his skills in order to learn them, and apparently he opened the inbox if he could figure out new techniques. They would count as skills too. Overpowered. Shigaraki's voice rang in his head. Isuku politely ignored him and continued to read the description. Kai, level 1. Kai is a natural energy given off by people and objects when they move. With enhanced sense and training, Kai can be tracked in order to predict movements and react to unseen attacks. Kai will also reduce the efficiency functionality of enemies' stealth attacks. The effect was immediate. His sense flared and the sensory input doubled. He could feel, sense everything around him. He could hear Shota flipping through pages, could hear the quiet hum of the refrigerator humming, the sound of the air conditioner. He could hear Coffee sleeping on Shota's bed, purring quietly in her sleep, all of it, and it hurt. Isuka whimpered, doubling over as a pounding headache hammered against his forehead. He felt sick, but just as quickly as it happened, it dispersed. His sense tuned out and went back to the usual. Isugu jumped off the couch and rushed to the bathroom to flow up in the toilet. Isugu, Shota's voice came away the spit and vomit from his mouth. What happened? I'm fine, Isugu replied. Just. He shook his head as a shudder racked his body and pulled down the flush. My quirk acted up for a second. Shota peeked in his head, forehead furrowed. If it weren't for the way Shota did a quiet check of his body for injuries, Isuku would have thought he was scowling. But then again, he knew the man for 8 years, and had learnt to read his expressions fluently. What do you mean? He asked somewhat sternly. I just got a new skill, and it kinda dialed up my senses for a few seconds, Isugu explained before rinsing his mouth to get rid of the sour taste from his tongue. It's called Kai. Shota's eyes tightened around the edges. And you're sure you're okay? Yep, I'm fine. It turned off on its own, Itsuki replied. Okay, drink some water, Shota said, and he glanced back to check something before continuing. I need to head out. New mission? Isuku asked. Mm-hmm. Shota nodded. Need to check out the ground before it starts. Is it dangerous? Not more than usual. Itsuku frowned. Be careful. Shota let out an airy chuckle. Of course, kid. Shota patted his hair once before walking out of the bathroom, before retiring back to his room to get changed. In the meanwhile, Itsuku went back to the living room and sat down on the couch, opening his own quirk analysis notebook. He scribbled the name of the new quirk on the top of with a black marker before writing its description. Then he grabbed Shota's laptop to learn more about Kai. He was finished with the first article related to Kai or Kwai when Shota walked out. Don't burn the house, the man said, and try not to summon demons until I come back. Isuku snorted. I'll try. Good. The door closed after the man muttered a muffled goodbye. Alright, Isuku mumbled, scribbling notes about Kai in his notebook. Time to grind again. Isuku panted hard as he laid back against the cold cement of the roof. His mom would have fussed on him if she saw him like this, but Ichigo couldn't bring himself to care at the moment. His lungs were burning. He had finally managed to use the breathing technique involved in fire breathing for an hour, and he was drenched in sweat, and his skin was probably bright pink. I guess that should be enough, he mumbled. He waited for the progress screen to pop up. He waited and waited, but nothing came up. What? He frowned and opened his skill set. Fire breathing was still at level 1. Why? Would you like a hint? Ichigo blinked. What? I can get help? He asked incredulously. Sure, in games there were hints, but he didn't expect that privilege to be present with his quirk as well. Of course, you can buy hints with the help of points. I can. Yes, would you like to buy a hint? Hint wanted. Leveling up fire breathing. Price 50 points. Buy. Yes. No. 50. How much do I have? Ichigo asked. Current points available. 331 points. How do I get points? Ichigo asked, surprised at the high number. Sure, he had the quirk for 2 months, but he never had the need to buy hints before, and was completely unaware the system being present. Each level up rewards you with 10 points. F to D rank gives additional 1 point per level up. C to A rank provides additional 3 points per level up. A plus rank provides 4 points per level up. S rank provides 5 points. Legendary rank provides 7, and mythical rank provides 10. Wow. He quickly did the calculations in his mind to figure out how many points he had gotten over the time. That's amazing. He clicked on the yes button. Hint! In order to level up fire breathing from level 1 to level 2, you are required to use constant breathing for 24 hours continuously. What? Ichigo shrieked. It was difficult to maintain constant breathing for an hour, and how was he supposed to do it for a while before he could level up? This is hard, Ichigo whined. It may be hard, but it's not impossible, Ninth. Nana's voice echoed in his mind. You couldn't use it for an hour, but now you can. Just keep trying and eventually you can use it for 24 hours. Ichigo groaned, but it's still going to be hard. The harder the climb, the better the view, and replied, his pleasant voice only calming him a little. I can help, Shimori said. My quick danger sense was something like this too. It would alert me about danger or malicious intent, but the detection was described with a sharp pain in my mind. I had to train for quite some time before I got used to it, and eventually the pain became mild. Wow, danger sense sounds helpful, Isugu mumbled. You really helped me? Of course, Ninth. You can call me Isugu, you know. Okay, Isugu. Isugu sat up, grinning. So how did you do it? Alright, guys. That is the end of this chapter. I'm sorry for any stumbling or mispronunciations. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.